Welcome back to the Oshner Andrew Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio. We are live on location today at PJ's Coffee on the Airline Highway. If you got to get here, buy a car from Matt Bowers, check him out. If you're going to buy a car, buy local. Matt's got dealerships all over the region, and he will get you the best customer care and the best prices. Our first topic today is presented by Urban South. Mike, is it good or bad if the Saints' next coach reaches the Super Bowl? Because that's going to set back the timeline a little bit on some of the stuff they can do. So how do you kind of view that one?
Well, I think this would be an even more valid topic if that meant you were going last. But I think in this particular cycle, I mean, it really feels like the entire league is going to wait on Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. And then the other teams are going to wait on, if they didn't get Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, then they go to their number two. So if Detroit goes to the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked at all if there's like 4 teams not hiring their coach until after the Super Bowl. But a lot of times, if you wait on the Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, you were behind everyone else. They've all hired their coordinators before you. So there is a little danger in there. I mean, if you could hire Mike McCarthy tomorrow versus Aaron Glenn 3 weeks later and start building a staff and start having player evaluation meetings with the new coach, I'd like to see the sooner the better. But, and plus, you want there to be gas in the tank of the coach that comes on. I mean, if somebody just, spends the next 5 weeks working exhaustively to win a Super Bowl and then starts playing catch up as soon as they take over on February 10th or whatever, I think that's a negative. But what is the value in the opposite? If Detroit wins the Super Bowl and Aaron Glenn,
yeah, well, let me jump in here.
Well,
I got the opposite point of view,
that.
and you hit the other side.
Do you like that part?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I'm good with I want my coach in the Super Bowl because that means he's good at coaching. Like he's probably good at on his side of the ball, and I think that brings energy. If you're hiring a Super Bowl champion, like that's a good place to be. So I think there's value in that. And look, I don't think that Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and Joe Brady and who's the other one? Kellen Moore. I don't think they're all competing for one coordinator or one coach. I think Kellen Moore probably has his staff built. I think Aaron Glenn probably has his staff built. I think Ben Johnson probably has his staff built. And I think Joe Brady probably has his list of coordinators built. And I think you're just kind of going together. But I don't think that like if you're hiring Aaron Glenn, it means he's not getting a shot at Klint Kubiak or the Minnesota QB coach. Like I think Aaron Glenn already knows exactly who his coordinator is going to be, and I think whoever's tied in with him is just waiting for that because they've spent the last 3 years talking about this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to go get them, this is going to be our personnel guy, this is going to be that. Like that's usually how those things go. I don't think you're just kind of competing on the open pull like DA was last year, hoping to cast the net and pull back a coordinator. Like, especially if you're one of the top candidates getting a job, like that,
if you're one of the top,
you're built in, yeah. And I think all those guys, and there's only so many coordinators. I don't think that's really going to be a huge problem for them. And look, even on the other side of that, it's not like Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are going to be competing for the same offensive coordinator. Like they're on opposite sides of the ball, so. Right. You don't really have that problem either. So I'm good with it. I want them hiring someone that's in that game because it means that they've coached their way there. And like the more success I see out of if it's Joe Brady is OC, if it's Aaron Glenn is DC, like I want that. I want to be able to just keep seeing them go and go and go. And look, the more and more you watch Aaron Glenn and the more and more you watch his game plans, like the more and more it's like, oh my God, like this guy is really, really good at what he does. And we already knew that, but like if you're seeing it on the biggest stage, I think that's just exciting to the fan base. Like, so I'm for it. I think you can get there. I don't think it really sets you back too much or anything like that. It would just maybe set you back a little bit in the scouting department because you don't have people at the Senior Bowl. But I mean, I think you can catch up on all that stuff probably pretty quickly.
All right, well, let's talk about it like it's Aaron Glenn because I think we still consider him the front runner. How much of a factor is that? Is that actually your top choice? Like if you're the Saints and you know Aaron Glenn is gonna be your choice and there's back channel like confidence you're gonna get him, or if you're a Saints fan and you know Aaron Glenn's gonna be the guy, are you rooting for the Lions to win the Super Bowl? Do you like? Is that good for the Saints if their next coach wins 3 more games over the next 4 weeks?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, look, I don't like the short-term thing getting them in, but if you got a guy coming in and he's a Super Bowl champion, I mean, that's different. It gives you, I don't know,
valuable experience for him too to coach in those 3 games and win them.
Absolutely, and I think it just gives you cachet. You're standing up there going, look, I just won a Super Bowl. Like, oh, we got a Super Bowl winning coach. Yeah, I think you should absolutely want it.
So does that add to your, as a Saints analyst, like, we want to see them get a coach that gets people fired up. We want to see them get a good coach. Like, do you want to see Aaron Glenn, Kellen Moore, and no, I forgot the third name, Joe Brady, like keep winning
Yeah,
because of from a Saints biased perspective? Is that something to root for in this weekend's games?
yeah. I mean, I forgot about Kellen. We always forget about Kellen Moore, and Kellen Moore's like probably a very
And now
serious
he maybe
candidate.
jumps to the Dallas
Yeah,
top of the
maybe.
Dallas candidate list.
What does that say for Mike McCarthy if
Yeah,
a guy he fired takes his job?
I still don't understand what happened there.
It was
If
just a,
Dallas liked Kellen Moore so much, they weren't telling him he had to fire Kellen Moore.
no.
I don't
It's
get it. I don't get it.
he was under fire. Like, so the thing I've heard about Mike McCarthy, and it's the one like, and I don't know how fair or not this is. Like, I haven't went through like all the bio. I don't know if it's just like a recency thing or
Yeah.
whatever. But somebody, I was asking them the pros and cons. Someone in the league, in a front office with another team, not the Saints. I was asking them like the pros and cons of like from their point of view of Mike McCarthy, and one of the cons was that he's somebody who will make survivalist moves, and I think that was one of them. But I've pointed this out, and someone on our website made a fair comment, like, well, like he won 12 games the next year, and Dak almost won the MVP without Kellen Moore, so it's not like that. But still, I just don't think that's a good move. Like, I don't think you want to be getting people like out of your building to save yourself. But I also don't. It's hard to speak on what that atmosphere is like if you're the head coach and you have this like mercurial owner who just kind of like does things, and sometimes maybe you need to do that, or maybe sometimes you need to throw somebody out there to silence the masses. But it's not a good look for you though, that I think someone that you fired might take your job 2 years later. Like, I don't think that's a good look for you at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's because I'm trying to Google, and I mean, I guess it's because he wanted. He's like, hey, if I'm about to go down with the ship, I'm going to take play calling duties back, and I'm going to run this offense. But I just don't think it was one of those situations where ownership was telling him he had to make Kellen Moore a scapegoat, because ownership seems like they love Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
So it's very confusing.
Very,
But
very confusing situation. Also very weird that the Saints haven't scheduled an interview with McCarthy yet. As of yesterday, late last night, they hadn't yet. I don't think they did it today. Kind of weird. I mean, but their process is kind of running a little
yeah, I mean,
slow
they didn't
too.
interview Darren Rizzi till today. So maybe they feel like there's no rush. Maybe they feel like we don't need to race to beat the Bears to him. If he wants the Bears job, he's going to take the Bears job. If he's not going to take they don't seem to waste time with people they're not being used as leverage for candidates. They didn't they're like, we don't need to be in on Ben Johnson if Ben Johnson's not coming here. So maybe they're waiting. Maybe it's like, does Mike McCarthy want the Bears job? If not, then we'll interview him. I don't know exactly what's going on.
It just seems to me that if he was like number one on your list, as soon as he became available, you'd be making that phone call right away. Like, that's even just part of the recruitment process. Like, no, we're going to show him how much we want him.
I know.
So I don't.
Yeah.
I think maybe, and I'll include myself in there. I think maybe the understanding of their interest in him was overstated. I think there's an interest. I just think it might not be as strong as we possibly thought it was.
From a timetable standpoint, though, the worst thing for any team is waiting on Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, or Kellen Moore if they go, or Joe Brady could also go in the same game as Aaron Glenn, but then missing out on the musical chairs. Because I kind of feel like right now some people think Aaron Glenn is Saints or Jets, Kellen Moore is Cowboys or Saints, or Jaguars, I keep forgetting all our candidates. Ben Johnson's not in the mix, and Joe Brady. But it's like, if you end up with none of them, then you are taking your second or third choice, and you're late on the coordinator hire. So that's the last thing you want, is to wait on someone you don't think you have.
I think you'd know though.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's like really waiting to see. Like, I think everyone kind of probably already knows who their
The teams that
person
hire
is.
before the Super Bowl kind of already got the indication
Yeah.
they missed out on.
Yeah, I think you already know. I don't think anyone's waiting until like it's like a total mystery. Like, I think people kind of already know if they're in the mix or they aren't, and you go through your process or whatever.
I don't think you wait till after the Super Bowl and then find out you finished second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like the one thing that I don't think anyone is able to sit here and say like, well, I'm going to the Jets, and I want to go to the Jets because they don't even know who the Jets GM is yet. Like, there's a lot of things that I think still have to kind of come into play before anyone can even really declare where, okay, this is where I want to be. Like if the Jets are in your mix, you don't know. You don't know. Like it's impossible to evaluate until you know who their personnel person is going to be. And if you agree
I
with
mean,
that,
that's you speculating. You also reported that you like a pretty strong shoot down of the report that Aaron Glenn has already said the Jets is his favorite. No,
yeah,
not true at all. The Saints are seriously in the mix for
they
them.
might end up being
Yeah.
his favorite. They might end up being the place he picks. But like it's impossible to have. There's just not the information doesn't exist. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll see how it all plays out. All right, going to the next one, and we were just talking about the playoff games. Who are your teams? Who are you looking at? Who are your favorites?
Man, I hate that the Bills and the Ravens have to play each other. I wish that was the Super Bowl because those are the two guys that I don't even necessarily like. I'm not saying like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are my two favorite quarterbacks in the league, but it's just better for the league if those guys are in Super Bowls and aren't like known as the guys who can't get to the Super Bowl while Mahomes just keeps beating everybody else down. So it's a shame that one of those two guys' journey is going to end in the second round of the playoffs. But obviously that's the most exciting game. And then Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, can they surprise everybody by getting there too early? Can the Lions, who are the Saints North, fulfill their destiny? That's all exciting. But I really am. I mean, part of the reason that main topic was the main topic is I'm kind of watching it from the prism of how does this affect the Saints now? I really am with so many of their candidates still left in this final 8.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the Bills are going to beat the Ravens. I'll take the Bills over the Ravens.
The Ravens.
Even without Zay Flowers, it sounds like Zay Flowers isn't going to play.
All right.
All right.
It's all right.
I got the Bills in that one. I definitely can't pick
The
against
Bills don't have a Zay Flowers either.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a missing piece for them. I'll take the Chiefs over the Texans. I thought the Texans played up to their potential, finally after a whole year kind of sputtering. But that's Patrick Mahomes. I kind of like the Rams over the Eagles. I think. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
The Rams felt like the Rams for the last couple of years have felt like they've become like the Chiefs, where they're like, we don't bother trying very hard in the regular season. We get in the playoffs and then we turn it up when the playoffs come on, or down the stretch of the season. All of a sudden, they looked like a team that was just wasting time until it mattered.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've been saying since week 3. I think the Eagles are gonna be the NFC rep, but I don't know. I kind of I'm just looking at the schedule right now, and I'm like, I'd probably pick the Rams. I'll stay with it.
If you told me who was going to win the Super Bowl, my top 3 choices would all be AFC teams.
Yeah,
I see flaws in Lions. It's beyond their control. It's injury related. The Eagles, I've seen flaws in just not realizing their potential consistently enough, some coaching snafu issues and stuff like that. But man, I think the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, 1, 2, 3 are the 3 teams I would bet on most to win the Super Bowl if they didn't have to play each other.
And I think the Lions are going to kick the Commanders in the teeth. I just think they're going to. I think they'll. I think
if Aaron Glenn has a good plan for Jaden Daniels, it'll be something that the Saints defense that he learned under never had a good plan for a quarterback like that. I'll be really interested to see if he does something different than his mentor had here.
Yeah, I think those are my picks.
All right.
I don't like
the Rams. Pick one upset. I'm making you pick one upset. You pick the Rams?
Yeah, I picked the Rams. Yeah.
All right. So if I'm picking one upset, my one upset would be the Commanders. There's something about, man, the Lions impressed me on grit and moxie and heart a lot, but that is a lot of injuries to overcome. They do get David Montgomery back this week.
We'll see. All right, moving on to the next one. Presented by Shea Bear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Saints list, let's say it's done. Do they need to add anyone else to their mix?
It's a little thin for me. It's 6. Unless Cliff Kingsbury gets back on the list, it's 6 guys. If Mike McCarthy gets
I'm glad he's off that list.
Yeah?
He has a losing record, in college and the pros. I listened to this fan base for 3 years talk about how Dennis Allen had a losing record, and why would you hire a coach with a losing record? And then I was surprised how many people were like, yeah, but Cliff. It's wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I've become convinced on that fact. If you can't win anywhere, maybe you shouldn't be the head coach of a team. I don't need to be the person to give you another chance to do it. And that was just such a red flag to me. Just kind of, I feel like Cliff dropping out is him saying I know I'm not going to get a job. Yeah.
Well, if Mike McCarthy becomes a candidate and interviews next week, that'll be 7. It just feels a little thin to me. If you don't get Aaron Glenn and you don't get Mike McCarthy, now it's down to 5. And I don't even have a front runner. I mean, that becomes Rizzy, that becomes Joe Brady, that becomes Kellen Moore, who now seems like a favorite in Dallas. So now you're down to 4. I don't take Mike Kafka and Anthony Weaver super seriously as candidates. So has it become Rizzy or Joe Brady then? Like, if you're missing out on the top candidates, like there's just a few I'm surprised. I'm surprised Brian Flores isn't on their list. I'm surprised Todd Monken's not on their list.
Yeah, Monken's the one for me.
And I'm surprised Liam Cohen's not on their list. I mean, maybe they've got the past history of them, but they've just narrowed the search quite a bit. I think it was only 5 when they hired Sean Payton. I think it was only 5 when they hired Dennis Allen. So this is obviously an approach that they favor. But if 3 of these guys get taken away by other teams, the list is too thin for me. It's fine if Aaron Glenn and Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore are actually guys they can choose from. But if they get removed from the list, then man, did that get thinned out.
It's not the numbers for me. I think it's more that it just doesn't feel like there's a ton of quality in this coaching pool. Like there's a handful of guys, and once you get beyond them, I think they're all kind of just like mid-level maybes at that point. But there's there's Ben Johnson, there's AG, there's Joe Brady, and
Vrabel was obviously
Kellen Moore, and Vrabel. And after that, it kind of feels like
sounds like a lot of people think Liam Cohen will go to the Jaguars.
I heard AG had a great interview there, so we'll see.
He's getting a job. AG's getting a job.
Yep.
Yeah.
If he wants a job.
Yeah. True. What do you prefer? Do you prefer Saints? Let's say McCarthy goes to the Bears and the Saints just interview 6 and that's it. Do you prefer that, or the Jets are up to 14 now?
No, I don't want that. I mean, if the Jets thing feels like a joke at this point, like it's just the numbers just keep going and going and going and going. No, I don't want that. I'm actually okay. Like I said, I'm okay with the numbers. I just don't. I don't feel like there's like a ton of quality in the poll, but like you can't manufacture that. So, like just doing a wider search to have wider numbers, like if you kind of know what the candidates are, Monken's the only one where I'm kind of like, why aren't they talking to him?
I would also put Flores on that list I think all teams should consider Flores, but the Saints obviously interviewed him last time.
Yeah, if they know that.
So both sides know if that's not a fit. They must have. One side or the other must have decided that's not a fit.
And then I don't know if Liam Cohen's going to get a job or not, but I mean, the history there between this organization and him kind of.
Do you think the fact that Rizzy is a candidate makes it less reason to have to interview 14 people because Rizzy, like there's a Rizzy line? You're like, I only need to interview people I think I might like better than Rizzy.
I don't think you need to talk to 14. It's just noise at that point.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like you're just interviewing people. Like and I think at a certain point, if you're collecting too much information, you're just confusing the process too. Like I think there's a good balance of we're going to talk to a wide swath but not too wide, kind of know where we're going, narrow our list down so we aren't wasting time. We aren't getting too much information, and then kind of go from there.
So today, Sean Payton fired his special teams coordinator, and everyone immediately thought, well, that means he's going to hire Rizzy, especially since his special teams coordinator had done a pretty good job. Is there again, we talked about waiting till after the Super Bowl. Do you worry about, like, what if Rizzy says, hey, I have a job offer? Should I wait for this head coaching job? Do you hang on to Rizzy as a candidate as long as possible, like if you're the Saints, or do you let him go? And, like, how do you operate with that? I mean, Rizzy probably waits if they're really treating him seriously as a candidate.
I think that Rizzy would probably, again, I think it's something where you kind of, you're informed probably pretty quick. I think if Rizzy's not going to be it, out of fairness to him, they would let him know, hey, look, like we're going another direction. Go take this. So I think it's okay there. And even then, like if I don't think that job's going anywhere if it's earmarked for Rizzy, because then at that point you're going to like an assistant somewhere. So I think Sean would probably know where his plan B is if it isn't that. But I thought Rizzy was going there last year when the main special teams, what's
Westhoff.
Yeah, when Westhoff stepped down with Medical, it was like,
Westhoff was not only the special teams. Well, I don't even know if he was their special teams coordinator, but he was their assistant head coach, which is also a job that is earmarked for Rizzy, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for the first block. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. Welcome back to PJ's on Airline. Make sure you start every day with a cup of PJ's. They'll get you going and get you right. Our next topic is presented by Aaron Rose. How do you feel about Kubiak if he were to go? He got a second interview in Seattle. A couple other people are getting second interviews there, so he's definitely a finalist for it. But I don't know if it's fair to say that he's the front runner. But if he leaves, how do you view it?
Well, you made a good point on this, where you want the Saints' next head coach to be like, this guy's my guy. It's funny. I should call up the name. There's a hotshot young assistant for the Lions, right? That some people have speculated Aaron Glenn will take with him. Some people have speculated Ben Johnson will take with him. And then obviously he could get promoted to replace Ben Johnson in Detroit. But yeah, you want to hire a head coach who's like, nope, I got this guy and he's a whiz kid and he's coming with me. That's what you want when you hire a coach. So you don't want them to be like, well, I got this job and I don't know who I'm going to hire. I guess I'll keep Klint Kubiak. You don't want it to be like that. But I do think of Klint Kubiak kind of how we just described Rizzi, as sort of like the line of demarcation. Like, I think you could do worse than keeping Klint Kubiak. I wish he was at least an option for somebody, but I do hope they upgrade. There's still a lot of things I like about him. I think he was dealt a bad hand in New Orleans with all the injuries. Obviously, we've talked about their lack of talent on offense. I think he can still succeed elsewhere, but I do think it is time to try to upgrade here.
And I think it's a terrible look for an organization if you're not letting people out of their contracts or you aren't allowing them to go explore other moves after your head coach gets fired. And then you're just telling them, like, you got to stay here, but we aren't promising you a job. So You just got to wait until we run our process so that you can find out. Yeah, you have to let him leave. And he might go to Seattle and be great. And the Saints' next offensive coordinator might stink. And, it just kind of is what it is. But you got to let the coach build their staff. You can't hold anyone hostage. You can't say we're going to hire a head coach around our offensive coordinator. Like, you just kind of have to start with the clean slate there. So, yeah, that's just kind of the way that you have to do business. And I think the guy you're talking about is Tanner
Engstrand.
Yeah. Like Brunell's another one that could go somewhere maybe on that offense. He's actually higher up on that list, I think.
Brunell's the quarterback's coach.
Quarterback's
Engstrand
coach.
is the passing game coordinator. Do you want to know who their assistant quarterback's coach is?
JT Barrett?
JT Barrett. Yeah. There's so many Saints ties on that staff. The odds of I didn't think about Brunell. Brunell, Engstrand. I mean, one of them could follow Ben Johnson. One of them could follow Aaron Glenn. One of them could replace Ben Johnson. So there's a couple guys to choose from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, it's one of them things. I think we'll never really know what he could have been, assuming he leaves. And that's kind of a disappointment because I think there was actual potential there. I don't think he's a bad coach. I just think where they're at, you gotta move on. And I want him to move on because, again, you said it for me. Like, I want to see them hire a coach with a vision and people that have belief in that vision to be a part of it. And I think that puts you in a better place than hiring DA and you're trying to cobble it together after the fact. And like, there just wasn't ever like a real plan there with how you were going to make the staff because they assumed they were keeping the staff, but he wanted to make a change. Then he couldn't make the change. And it was just 2 years too late. And I think if you went into it with, hey, clean slate, execute your vision straight off from the jump, like, he might still be the coach right now. That could have been enough to potentially save a lot of jobs. So you don't want to do it the same way you did it last time. Moving on to our next topic, presented by the Louisiana Lottery. How much should the Saints invest in another pass catcher? Draft free agency, wide receiver, tight end.
It's a big enough need that they're allowed to do it with the 9th pick. Obviously, they're allowed to. I don't think Devontae Adams is a free agent. Is he? Is Devontae Adams a free agent? I can't remember that when we were talking about whether they should trade for him. They're allowed to. I'm fine if they make that their big ticket item. Add to his strength. Now you've got Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and a true X receiver that makes you impossible to defend. But I can't get over my bias that I feel like that's a position where you can get a stud in the 3rd round of the draft, 2nd round of the draft. That's a position where guys get lost in the shuffle in free agency sometimes. Whereas I feel like you cannot get a good pass rusher anywhere else but a high draft pick or $20 million in free agency. You cannot get a true offensive tackle anywhere else but the 9th pick in the draft. So, and I also think that's one position where they have guys who could be studs in Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. So to me, that's not the position I want to spend the most on draft-wise or free agency, but it's probably in my top 5 needs.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of got to now, though. That's what I mean. They're 20, 25, 30 million. Like, they're going to be like $30 million players soon. Like, that is a spot where you kind of, I think you got to draft it high to get it. I don't know if it has to be 9, but like, if you want a real like number 1 X, and I think the value of that position in the draft is just going to keep going up and up and up. And it already is high, but that dollar value is going to make people draft it higher because they don't want to spend $25 million on a pass catcher because you need 4 or 5 of them. And I think the only people you can really justify paying that to are like Justin Jefferson, Chase, like guys like that. I think it's a position where a lot of teams are going to view it as catch and release. Like you're going to try to get one in the draft early, let them go, try to replace them again early. Is that price soars and you got to manage your cap, especially like if you're paying a quarterback, you can't really pay a ton of receivers now. Like there's a limit of resource allocation, and that price is really going up. So, I mean, yeah, you can get them other places, but I think it's a spot where like if T-Mac's available there at 9, I'm taking them. Like I am. I just think I think it's hard, and I think it's going to get harder to get them, especially if you need like a guy to be like your number 1 body type. I think it's really hard to find those players.
If you took T-Mac, does that almost go hand in hand with not paying Chris Olave then? It's 2 years from now?
Well, I think the Saints, where they're at cap-wise, probably aren't going to be paying receivers like that. I mean, I think you kind of got to catch and release, and I think that's probably going to be their strategy. Like paying someone unless they like rapidly get good, I don't think you're paying $25 million to Chris like when he becomes a free agent. I think it's probably a position where they're at, probably time to move on. Look, if they're kind of where they're at and you're Chris, you aren't coming back here. Like, what's the value in coming back to play with if you don't have the quarterback part of it solved. I'm trying to leave and go somewhere and succeed with the better.
Somebody will pay him. Did you just say 25? Way up. I mean, we've seen. What, Jalen Waddle, Brandon? I mean, it's 30 already.
Yeah.
And by the time he's a free agent, it'll probably be 40. But a lot of information still to be gathered because his 4th year of his deal, they're going to obviously pick up the 5th year contract. They could even franchise him after that. So they could still have him for 3 more years before they had to make a decision like that.
All right. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors with the Martin's questions of the day. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's.
Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, where entertainment meets unparalleled customer service. From our days on the water to our new land experience overlooking the Mississippi River, our dedicated staff is here to ensure your visit is nothing short of exceptional. Whether you are coming or going, our well-lit parking lot and security team provide guests with red carpet treatment. Our security team keeps watch so you can focus on fun and fortune. From table to table, our attentive staff is here to serve up the ultimate experience. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back to the NewOrleans.Football show presented by PJ's Coffee. It is now time for the Martin's questions of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of handpicked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. First one here is from Kyle. He said it's been a while since the Sean Payton hiring, but remind us how he was perceived at the time of the hiring and how would that compare to current candidates. Kyle said, if I have to remember correctly, he had play calling duties taken away from him in New York. That's right. And the Dallas offense was not groundbreaking.
Yeah, Kyle, good friend of the show. I did cover that. My first year covering the Saints was 2005, so I covered that whole coaching search. And there was one thing the Saints really wanted that year, and it was the culture thing we're talking about. They wanted to change their culture, and they wanted a Bill Parcells assistant. Sean Payton was their top choice. Their second choice was Maurice Carthon, who never ended up getting a head coaching job in the NFL. I think he was a Browns assistant at the same time. He's the guy who finished second in that. They loved the idea of how Sean Payton had just spent the last 3 years filling a notebook with ideas of the messages he was going to send throughout the building, the signs he was going to put up in the building, like how he was going to run everything in an organized, disciplined way, everything he had learned from Parcells, in addition to obviously him being a great young offensive coordinator. So I thought this was a great question because I wish this candidate existed this year for the Saints, and I don't think it does. I made the point on our last show where I said, I love everything about Aaron Glenn's bio, and I wish he was an offensive coordinator. There is nobody who is both the offensive coordinator and he's been developing for the last 5-6 years under this great program. So Peyton was the best of both worlds at that time, and I think was absolutely celebrated as everyone's favorite candidate at that time because he had both things going for him, the offense and the culture.
And then our next one is from
But just to continue, he was definitely an unknown at the time. Green Bay went with Mike McCarthy over Sean Payton. Sean Payton was nobody. It wasn't like he wasn't the Kellen Moore of this year's class. He was probably a little higher than Kafka. Maybe he was like a Todd Monken of this year's class or something like that, I would say.
And then the next one is from Caden. He said, what's more important for the team, drafting another bookend tackle to pair with Fuaga or drafting an edge with double-digit sacks upside? I don't even think it's close. It's the pass rusher. I think they desperately need it, and they can get by with what they got at offensive tackle right now, running it back with Fuaga and Penning. But if you don't get that pass rusher, you have zero pass rush on this team next year pretty much.
I think these are the two positions that in a vacuum I would draft at number 9 above any other position outside of quarterback. It's quarterback number 1, and then I think it's defensive end and offensive tackle. Like I said with receiver, I do feel like you can get a receiver in the 3rd round, maybe even free agency. I don't think you can get the defensive end you need or the offensive tackle you need. So I would love it if the stars aligned and or great defensive tackle, game-changing defensive tackle. Those are the 3. I would love it if they were the highest-rated player on their board at number 9 for the Saints more than any other position. But, yeah, I agree defensive end would be number 1 for me. I know we've seen them swing and miss at that position a few times, but we haven't seen them swing inside the top 10. And a lot, get me Myles Garrett, nothing would make me feel instantly better about this team.
Putting names on him, it's kind of interesting with the tackle spot. Like Will Campbell has short arms, and a lot of people think he's going to be a guard. So I don't know. I don't know if you want 2 short arm tackles. That was the knock on Fuaga too. So I'm not sure. But like even just taking names off it, I would have cornerback and wide receiver in there too.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay with all of them. I think they need a cornerback really bad. I think they need a top tier wide receiver really bad. If you have bad quarterbacks or subpar quarterbacks or a rookie quarterback trying to be better or a second-year quarterback trying to develop, I think you have to put real playmakers around them to make that happen. So you could sell me on that. Like if you're going with Spencer Rattler next year, like getting a wide receiver at 9, I think is building out your team. Like so I like any of those 4 positions I'm good with, but if you're asking me to rank them, it's pass rusher number 1, like by far.
These are tiebreakers if they have the same grade. This is absolutely the year to draft based on your grade, though, because we just listed 5 positions. Obviously, quarterback's on that list, too. That's 6 positions. And, I mean, you can make an argument for tight end, linebacker, safety, running back. I mean, give me an all-pro. This team needs all-pros. That's what this team needs.
All right. That's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're going to be streaming the Lions and Commanders game on Saturday night. So make sure you're checking us out for that. Come hang out. And we'll be back with another episode of the show on Monday.